pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we please have the roll call?
Jonathan Ramsey, Marianne Rosa,
Here.
Ken Demers,
Here.
Robert DeCina, here. Anthony DeBona, Gary Lafferty,
Here.
Robert Ritalik,
Here.
Denise Russ, here. Rachel Ryan,
Here. The next item on the agenda is public comment. I will begin by commenting for those of you that might be here due to the information that was on the Watertown Talks page. It's totally inaccurate. We did not approve anything. The town manager did not approve anything. If you'd still like to, the town manager said he will get back to each of you. If you would like to address us, certainly feel free to do so, but we don't know anything about it or who put it there or why.
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
May I address?
Sure.
the pub- If you'd like to leave your name and number, I'm going to do some research in the morning. We're not aware of this project, and I could get back to you first thing in the morning.
I just have a question.
Excuse me. We'd love to have you make a comment, but you need to come to the microphone and give your name.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Emmanuel, the resident at 269 Linfield Road. So my one concern is, if you guys haven't approved everything, why is it that they started working on the place next door already?
Again, I can't really comment because I don't know. I drive that road every day, and I wasn't even aware a project was going on. So first thing in the morning when I come in, I will go to my planning and zoning administrator. I will find out if there has been any permits pulled and if everything is done according to our regulations and rules. So I can't answer your question because I didn't know what was happening.
I don't know if, am I just supposed to ask questions, or do I? Oh, anyway, I've visited the town hall twice the past 2 weeks. Did no one bring that information up? I provided a bunch of minute papers from the wetlands with information that showed why it shouldn't be working, and I was completely shut down on it.
All right. I'm not aware of that, and I was away on vacation, to be honest, last week, so maybe those papers were put for me to see, but I'm not aware of it, so I can't really comment on it. If you would please leave your name and number, I'd like to talk to you before I go and I ask any further questions. It'll be helpful for me to move forward and get you the right information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a minute, let them speak first. Is there someone else that would like to? Sure. Come right up.
My name is Arta Baka, and I live at 269 Linfield Road. And I want to say, if you're not aware and they did not get permission, how that's possible for them to start such a big, like they're doing the septic, they're doing driveway. You cannot start doing something if you don't have permission from you guys. How?
I agree, and that's the only answer I could give you. I have to look into it. If somebody started a project without getting our permission, then we would have to stop that project at where it's at and then advise them to get the proper permits if it's possible. But I'm caught off guard to give you any information. I don't have enough background to talk about
Okay.
it.
And then another question is that there are two condominiums, because I live next to it.
There's two up?
The houses, they're
Yep.
condominium, not houses. And it's not allowed for them to have a group home or convalescent home because of this.
Yep.
Now, the thing is, there is one driveway that we go, both me and the other person that just moved in. It's not safety for them to have that because it's just one driveway. They have no exit out. If something is, like the patient needs to go to hospital, how they'll get out to go to bring
Yeah.
them?
I appreciate your comments, and I understand what you're trying to come across in educating me, but I think it's best that, let me get the right information first, and then I could direct you on which commission you need to go to actually explain further. This is not the appropriate commission. They're not the authority that oversees that. So
Okay,
I'll
then.
have to get that information for you, and
Okay,
then I can
last-
help you figure it out.
All right, last thing, like my last question is this. I heard they said they got permission from you guys. That's why they start doing all these big projects. Because if they did not get permission from you guys, when I say from you, it's not just you, but from town, they say they would not come and do such a big project and spending so much money. They bought the house $630,000, plus they're spending money. So how can they spend money if we did not get permission? Which means they did it, they got them. That's what I say. Because like I said, I'm neighbor. I'm the one that more concerned.
You may be right, you may be wrong. I don't have the information to comment, but I will find out and I will get back to you in the morning if you leave your name and number.
Yes, and the other thing, I'm just gonna tell you, if you don't know, you probably know, because it's your job. but
Well,
I'm
now
saying-
I know, yes.
No, what I'm saying, by law, because it's on the paper, says that only 6 people supposed to live at the house, including the owner.
That's not gonna be.
So whoever bought the house should be present, and 6 people, no more than 6. Guess what? They are going to have 9 people there.
Okay. I think, again, it would be most appropriate for you to leave your name and number. Let me do my research, and I will promise that I will get back to you before lunch tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we could direct everybody who wants a comment and leaves your name and number. I will get you the information on which commission you need to go to voice your concerns. I
I'll
think
do
that would be
and
the
then
best way.
The last thing, and I'm gonna sit
Okay.
down, is this. You as a town, when I say you, it's everybody.
Yes.
You know what the law is about
Yes.
this. So what they've been doing, you think it's allowed to do that? You know, like, let's say, if I come to you, I'll tell you, this is what's going on, this is what I want to do to this place. What are you gonna tell me? If it's not allowed or it's allowed? So when I'm telling you about this, what they're doing, without getting permission or whatever, you think it's allowed to do that?
No, I don't. I believe that if they do not have the proper permits, then they need to either get the proper permits or they need to stop the work. That's the stance I could take at this point. And
Okay.
I'll find out tomorrow exactly what is going on.
Because I received a letter from their lawyer, saying that we are going to do it, and that's the end of that. And that's what I've been doing.
Okay.
And I have the letter from them.
We'll get back to you first thing tomorrow.
All right.
We
Well,
promise.
thank you so much for your time.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
it.
Mr. Ramo, this is directed just towards you. I just have one question. Who is of higher authority, you or Mark at the town hall?
Well,
Yes,
Mark
Mark.
is the authority for land use.
Land use, right?
Yes.
So when you say you're going to direct us towards the right specific spot, would it be Mark?
Well, it would be the commission. The commission makes the decisions. Mark is the staff member. He's our paid professional. So ultimate authority sits with me for staff, and the overseeing of the town council is over the whole town.
So I also heard you guys had another meeting last Friday. Don't you think Mark would have brought that up to you guys? Especially if I visited 2 times in a row about this exact same thing, bringing evidence of the minutes from the wetlands?
Okay. I think that the council should move on with their business. You have a lot of details that will be important to me, so I would be appreciative if you'd leave your number so I could reach out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I heard you say you're going to direct us the right way, and I just don't know who else to go to if he's the one in
Well,
charge.
this is uncomfortable for me, so I assure you I will get to the bottom tomorrow.
I promise you, it's uncomfortable for us all,
Okay.
you know?
We'll make sure the right thing's done.
So my name is Mark Sarlo. I live at 270 Linkfield Road, the property right across the street from the properties in question. So when those properties were built about 10, 15 years ago, it's not the same zoning as what we have in our neighborhood because the zoning had to be something like a condominium zoning, so they can put 2 houses on 9 acres up there. So if whatever they're doing now, would it require a zoning change, and would that come to this board, or would that be a different board?
That
go-
would be a different board.
Yes.
It would be a different board. Do we know if a zoning application change has been put in place, or we can
You'd have
find that
to
out?
We'd have to check that.
That's one of the facts you
With
have to
it,
check,
yeah.
right? Because that would be first and foremost before they could actually put something up there that is
I did a
different.
quick check when I saw the post online today, and I did not see anything, and it was a very quick check. We did not see anything of any application. So I have to do more research to ensure that I didn't miss something. It was just,
Oh, so you didn't see anything that said that there was a zoning change
there
that
was
would
nothing
require?
in recent history that I was able to see that there was,
And maybe this
application.
question is too legal, but if the zoning is nebulous up there, it's not defined, what does that mean? Like you could do anything up there then, basically, right?
I believe all our zoning is defined. I don't believe we have any unzoned areas. There may be overlay areas. but I believe everything in Watertown has a zoning regulation
As a zoner.
attached to
Okay,
it.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Through the chair.
I wanted to get the public first.
Okay, Mr. Snow, I could provide input there.
Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Through the chair, in addressing the public's concern, the citizens out in the Linkfield Road area, I just so happened to be out there last week for maybe 2 hours. I recognized people. I believe I talked to you, sir. You went by and asked what was going on. Is it Sarlo? Your mailbox, I saw yours there. The reason all that work was being done there last week was because of the cable. It had nothing to do with anything else. And you live in an area, is there any public water and sewer there? No. How could they put a group home in there with no public water and sewer? That's my concern. I don't think they could. That's just my take on it. Wait, can I finish, please? Let me finish. Not only that, how could they put in condominiums with no public water and sewer? I believe you all came here concerned, you were all addressed by social media about this? How were they made aware that this, was it by social media?
Herm, please, we aren't going back and forth with the public. No.
Okay. Can I speak? Yes. Why not? She's sure.
Council, my name's Richard Brent. I live on 259 Linkfield Road. My property borders the property that we're concerned about at 271 Linkfield Road. And Mr. DeCina, we are aware of the fact that Frontier has been running wires in, but I live next to the driveway where I see trucks going up every day for the last 10 days, and they were not Frontier trucks, believe me. Okay, so that observation of yours is a little shaky. Also, too, I understand that that property is unzoned. From my recollection of the rules in here, we're zoned R70 or R90. Why would that property not be zoned?
I only know information from what another resident shared, is that there was some application for a zone variance that happened in the past. Again, I don't have the details. It's really outside of my wheelhouse to try and answer that question, but I will get the answer for you without issue.
If there was a zone change at some point in time, shouldn't the residents of Linkfield Road been notified?
If the regulations have stayed similar, and I believe they have, yes, you should have been notified.
Okay, we were not notified.
Okay. Again, that's something we would have to look
Okay.
into if that is
These
to
are
be
some
true.
pertinent questions that really need to be answered,
Absolutely, I agree.
okay? I appreciate your time. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to address us?
No, not yet.
Yes, Mr. Mickle, yes.
I was anxious to get up here. This has a little bit to do with a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight. And one of the first things that I came across was what was old news about the reorganization of some of the positions in the town. And the town manager spoke of that last meeting we had. And one of the first things I did when I talked to the new manager was looking for what they called the Blue Book. And the Blue Book talks about the merit system, which is section 802 in the charter. And one of the things, the second paragraph of 802 talked about one of the sentences in there. It says, new positions, change in duties and responsibilities of existing positions, or any other changes that may be made at any time by resolution of the council. It seems to me by reading that sentence in the charter that you guys can make a resolution to make the changes. The town manager mentioned that he got the okay from the town attorney. I would love to understand what the town attorney what part of the charter of the town attorney or what rules and regulations he's quoting from to say the town manager can do this. It's one thing to do a good deed, but you ought to do it the right way and not the wrong way. So I hope this can be resolved somehow, that the town attorney can explain exactly what should be going on. Now, normally I start off with public participation, and I think we've had a lot of participation tonight, and I appreciate it. But the website talks about reviewing the current, I think it's 2016 guidelines for public participation or comment. And it says it's under review. I'm just curious of who's reviewing it, when's it going to be reviewed, and I would love to have some input on that review process. The other thing I looked up is, it's pretty neat. The Historic District has public participation at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. I think they're doing it right. Now, the next one is the roof on the Munson House. We're spending a lot of money on the Munson House. I guess I understand the water pipe has been done. When I was looking under see if there was a bid waiver for the roof, I went to the town website, and there was a bid, 3 bids for the roof. And the bids ranged from $22,100 all the way up to $48,125. And somehow we picked the highest number. I'm not sure how that decision was made. It seems to me that 3 of them were in the $20,000 range and one was almost $50,000. So I'm not sure if I can understand why somebody picked the highest bidder to come up with $41,900. While I was there looking at those bids, I came across the water bid, and it was bid multiple times. But it was interesting to say that it was all done under the Watertown Fire District rules and regulations. From what I understand, in the town here, my driveway is pretty long, and I'm responsible for getting from the water from the street into my house. It's my job. I have to pay for it. But in the street, it's the town's responsibility. I can't go digging up the street. Why wasn't the fire district digging up the street and responsible for that portion of that job? When I was on the Water and Sewer Authority, when they were talking about splitting up the fire district and not the fire district, they were adamant, claiming that that was their pipes in the road, and they paid for it, and they were going to maintain them. I guess they really didn't mean what they said then, I guess. Okay, here's the fun part, the job descriptions. I wonder why we're going through these job descriptions. Unless they're going to be updated or changed. When I first read it, I thought, oh, is somebody leaving that we're updating these things? And that worried me some. But I have some comments as I go through there. I notice they're all marked draft. So they have to be, I guess, approved by you people. Some of them, I guess, has to be approved previously or before you guys by the Planning and Zoning Council, because some of these are dual responsibility of ownership there. And some of the comments are fairly straightforward drafts type stuff you should fix. Okay. In the Assistant Superintendent, Water and Sewer Authority, Assistant Superintendent / Engineer, it has a paragraph called Supervision Responsibilities. In all the others, it really should say supervision received. So that might be needed to be updated. Now, a lot of these physical demands we've talked about, like crawling, okay? But here we have one that has specific vision abilities, and it goes through depth perception, adjust focus, vision, color. Do we give physicals out for these things?
Excuse me, for 1 second. Can we do something about the noise in the hallway?
Sure. Okay.
I can speak louder.
You shouldn't have to. Thank you. Sorry.
No,
One of this is a little humorous in here, a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. One of the responsibilities that we talked about, crawling, in the word say, they have to crawl under a space. Why would you crawl under a space? I'd crawl through a space. Just a little thing there. In the work environment, it says employees are occasionally exposed to seasonal conditions. The employee occasionally works near moving mechanical parts. Okay, he is often exposed to other hazardous materials. But the last line is the one I thought was rather hard. The job duties will expose the employee to blood, bodily tissue, and fluids, and possible electric hazards. Not occasionally or possibly, they will be. I think that could be toned down just a slight bit. Okay, the land use, building administrator, service, zoning enforcement officer. That's one hell of a job title. Again, it talks about supervisory responsibilities. It really should be supervision received. Again, on the full-time position, the non-exempt hourly position, okay, again, the same comment, supervision received. Now, under physical demands, it has one of the, I think, better things that you might want to copy throughout. Physical demands are representative of those that must be met by employees who successfully perform the essential duties of the job. Reasonable accommodations may be made to individuals with disabilities to perform essential functions. That should be able to cover it all. If they can't do the job physically, they shouldn't be there. Now, on this one, somehow I got 2 page 2s and no page 3. So I'm not sure how you guys made out with that, but I didn't get all of it. Okay, now on a different topic. We're done with job descriptions. On the fiscal calendar for the budget, it says the capital budget submitted to P&Z on February 1st. I would like to go see the capital plan. I just haven't looked for it yet, but I imagine it's there. But the one thing that I don't know is there, and I've always loved to look at, is the audit. Has the audit been completed? Is it available? I haven't seen it online. If someone could comment on that later, I'd appreciate it. I didn't do that. Thank you for your attention.
thank you.
I'm sorry, guys. I know I sat up here like 3 times. I just have one more question for you, Mr. DeCina. You said you spent 2 hours there up by my house last week. So judging by the fact that I have 5 excavators outside my house right now, is there going to be a postpone to them actually continuing working tomorrow since you guys are unaware of everything? Or are they going to continue to make noise and work outside my house?
I think I have to ask the question first and find out where this project, if it's a legitimate project. If they are not permitted to do the job, then I would ensure that we'll make a cease and desist order for that job. But again, I have to identify, you're asking me questions that I don't have the information for at this point. But yes, we will stop the job if they're not permitted to do the job.
And then when would I have some information on how you guys would go about this whole thing going on with them since I already bought the house, the people next door, the company?
Well, I think in fairness to you and in fairness to me, I have to really get the information. I understand this is important to you, and I will try and get to you first thing in the morning to kind of ease all the questions you have. But we're going to just go back and forth, and I'm going to start giving you the same answer because I can't pull any information that I don't know. But I promise I will get back to you first thing in the morning. I understand how important this is to you. I understand.
Thank you, guys.
Excuse me, excuse me. You have to come up to the microphone if you're going to speak.
No problem. Thank you. There's so many questions about the house, but when you buy a house, you come to the town, you ask for the house, where it goes, how much length, whatever, all that question. The town answers you all the questions. Plus, if you need to do something in the house, you're going to ask in order for you to start. So now, how can they start such a big project, such a big project without having permission from you guys? How? You can't do that. So
We don't-
somehow they got permission from starting because they
Well,
put a big
that's-
septic,
You're
big
you're making an assumption. People do start work and they try to do things illegally. I'm just asking, I assure you, well, I shouldn't even assure you, I don't think they're going to work overnight tonight. I drive that way to work. I promise to stop and look, and as soon as I come in, I will ask these questions, and you will be the first person I call.
I have a letter from their lawyer saying that we are going to do it.
What, if it's okay with you,
To bring
on
it
my
in.
way to work tomorrow, I'll stop and get the letter.
Oh, definitely I'll give it to you.
Okay, and then I'll use that as I work forward. Would that be okay?
Sure, yes.
What's the house number?
269. 269 Linkfield, right
Okay,
next door.
And I like my coffee dark and unsweet, okay?
All right, whatever you like.
All right.
No
I just
problem.
I
have-
don't think we
oh.
can answer any more questions tonight. You have to give the town manager a chance to get the answers for you.
It's just not about this, just a simple question real quick. Can you alter the minutes that were registered to the house? Let's say, so on my minutes, I have the copy in the car, it says that the owners must reside at each spot. So mine, I'm the owner of mine, I stay at mine. The owner of the next place, next door, he has to stay there. So now if it says that on the minutes, right, because there's 2 sisters who owned it, is that possible to alter it? So that the meeting, they had a meeting about my 2 houses because they had to get subdivided for the 2 sisters in order to have 2 houses there, right?
It should not be allowed to be altered, because we not only have them, and I don't know how long ago this was.
15 years ago.
Okay, so we did not have them digitally, but they're recorded.
Yep.
So the chances of somebody altering minutes are very slim.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
We got you.
Anyone else want to address the council? We'll close public participation and we'll move on to the, I beg your pardon. That's what I was going to. We have a presentation with regard to the Naugatuck Valley Greenway, and I believe Mr. Anthony Ciriello is going to address us.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. Jerry Lukowski, Director of Public Works. I'm just going to key it up for Tony. who we've been working with over the past month on this submission to go into the NVCOG and also the DEP for the Naugatuck Valley River Greenway. This isn't my first Greenway project. I worked on the rail to trail in 1996 in Vernon and Bolton, actually doing the physical construction. And I know Tony has just as much experience working on it too. The biggest thing for us is to go after grant funding, state funding. For us, it's going to be an 80 to 20% match. And our 20% is going to be in design and survey along the railway. I was there 3 weeks ago with the town engineer, and we actually walked it so I could get the actual feel for the project. And it's a very beautiful gateway. I don't want to steal too much of Tony's thunder, but it actually goes from Derby to Torrington. And we're just a section, one of the sections, many segments that are in between it. And for us, the public participation is key with the council, but also we're going to put it online. We posted the briefing already online because it gives us 8 percentage points for this in order for us to be competitive. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on the agenda tonight. This clicker to work. As I go through, I've got a few images that I borrowed from the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments website. And if you're not familiar with the Greenway, you'll see there's quite a bit of history and even planning associated with the Watertown segment that I'm going to go through. All right, perfect. So the Naugatuck River Greenway, just a little bit of background, is a 44-mile facility. And as Jerry indicated, it goes from Torrington all the way down to Ansonia, Derby, crossing through 11 or 12 towns along the Naugatuck River Valley. So when completed, it'll be quite a facility. And I'm going to show some examples of similar greenways in just a moment. It is designated a Connecticut State Greenway. And when we talk about a greenway, this is for non-motorized use. So cycling, walking, running, rollerblading, things of that nature. And there's been a lot of ongoing support planning with the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments. There's a Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee that meets regularly. Town staff, Jerry included, participate faithfully in those meetings. And there's been a lot of support at the state and town level for, in particular, the Watertown segment that I'm going to speak to. The graphics on this slide are borrowed from the Naugatuck Valley COG's website. They actually have a page dedicated to the Naugatuck River Greenway, and they actually have a page that's dedicated to the Watertown segment. And when you go on there, you can actually see past studies. And I'm going to talk about what I call the bookends, the piece that's already been designed in Thomaston that we will connect to, and the trailhead that's already been built on Frost Bridge Road that we will connect to. And there's a lot of good information on the COG's website. But just to provide some examples of other greenways in this part of the state, and you've seen them, or you've been users of the greenways. And I don't show Middlebury here, but we've got a paved greenway that flanks Route 64 throughout Middlebury. On the left side are actually two examples from the Naugatuck River Greenway system, that 44-mile system. The top is on the Army Corps Dike in Derby. As you go south on Route 8 and you look off to your right, off to the west, you'll see that. And then below that is a segment that was built several years ago in Naugatuck. I think it's exit 27. As you go down to go southbound, the greenway's right off to your shoulder, sandwiched between the highway and the river, not unlike portions of the greenway that we'll deal with. And then the photos are on the right actually begin back in the 90s when the first federally funded greenways were constructed in Connecticut. And you'll see very successful segments from Cheshire, Hamden, all the way to New Haven up to Southington. And those are good examples of what we're talking about here. But I did want to share with you the progress to date that we've had with the planning for the Watertown segment. And it's, and I'll call it Watertown to Thomaston. So, and we're here tonight to talk about support for a grant application or input into a grant application. We're going to be requesting from the Connecticut DEP through their recreational trails program funding in order to do the design and the permitting for this greenway. And then we'll get on to construction after that. But previously, the same group supplied a grant for planning. and for design of this segment. And the money was used to design a small section in Thomaston. And if you know the area, I think it's Old Waterbury Road, the animal control facility, there's a sanitary, a sewer treatment facility, and the trail would come behind those facilities, and I'll show you in just a moment. And it actually brings you to this place here you see in the photograph. There's an old trolley crossing of Branch Brook, and Branch Brook is essentially the town line. And that's what I'll call the northerly bookend, or the northerly terminus of our segment. And you see a little pedestrian bridge there. It's already been designed, and the trail north of there has been designed. These couple of images were cropped from the actual design drawings that a firm, VHB, drew with that previous grant. So we have our northerly tie-in, if you will. The southerly bookend, and this is a Google Street View, down on Frostbridge Road at the transit bus maintenance facility that was constructed a few years back. And if you've never driven in there, you might not know that it exists, but just before you go over the bridge, if you look to your left or north, there's a driveway that goes in, and there's actually a short piece of trail. This is actually a trailhead, and there's parking, and there's actually public restrooms there for trail users, which is essential to the success of a future greenway. And this greenway is intended to go south to Waterbury and connect to their evolving system. And then from this trailhead, we would go down Frostbridge, cross the tracks, and go north to Thomaston. So I think, what I want to demonstrate here is the bookends are largely in place. And now we're here to talk about pursuing design funds to fill in the big piece in the middle. And so this map on the right, well, I don't expect you to be able to read it. It comes from given the small scale, it comes from a route study that was previously done by an engineering firm, Fuss and O'Neill, and working closely with the COG and the towns. And the route study looked at ways not only to get from Thomaston to Watertown, but further on to Waterbury. And that red line is Route 8, and then to the right or the east, you see the Naugatuck River. That yellow line in the middle is the route of the planned greenway. It's about 2.4 miles. I've walked it. Jerry, you've walked it recently. Mark, we walked portions of it together. This will be a paved greenway from Frostbridge to Branch Brook. This will be they're generally 12 feet wide. Sometimes we have to neck down because of wetlands or rock, things of that nature. Generally a 12-foot wide facility. And I'm going to show you some photos in a few minutes. Some of the views and the vistas that can be achieved with this greenway, in my opinion, are unrivaled or in direct comparison to some of the other beautiful greenways in the state. My slide is cut off, so I'm looking at my notes here. There's much coordination for design of a greenway. It looks like a driveway through the woods, but it's much more than that. There's coordination with the DEP and the Army Corps because of sensitive wetlands, proximity to the river, being within the floodplain. We might encroach in the right-of-way of Route 8. There's state-owned parkland out there with the Matatuck State Forest. The city of Waterbury owns a large transmission main that comes from Thomaston south through the area, and largely the greenway follows the previous construction of this greenway. So a lot of coordination, state and federal and local permits, but that's what we do, and we know how to cross all those hurdles. And many of the greenways throughout the state have the same exact challenges. I don't think we're setting any precedents here with our plans for this segment of greenway. So in terms of grant opportunities, the Connecticut DEEP has a recreational trails program, and they funded the previous design of this short segment in Thomaston. Some of that money went to planning for Watertown, but there wasn't enough there to do the design of that much longer segment. Last year, there was a smaller grant pool of about $3 million. Watertown, myself working closely with Public Works and Engineering, we applied for $300,000 worth of design money. There hadn't been funding in a while. My understanding there were more than 70 applications. It's a highly competitive grant, and our project was not selected. In fact, I'm not sure any projects in the Naugatuck Valley were selected based on my recollection, but given the popularity of the program and the demand for this type of recreation facility, there's a new round of funding that's out now to the tune of $9 million. So again, highly competitive, but a much more robust pool of money. Applications are due on March 1st. And I'll be working closely with Public Works and Engineering to pull the application together. We'll work from our previous application, but the application process has also evolved. And one of the important aspects of the application is public engagement, public input. And so we want to bring the information forward. And you'll see at the end, we're going to invite public comment through the website. So with that, so we're requesting $300,000 in design money. We think that the design is a little more than $400,000. And the town has to put a 20% minimum match toward that. And so the match in this case is being accomplished with what we call in-kind services. And so the town, through its engineering department, has already surveyed the entire corridor. They've gone out and done topographic survey. They've found property corners, highway monuments. They've actually mapped the rights-of-way and even surveyed that water line the best they could find it, coordinated there, and put a lot of mapping together. And the engineering department will take on additional work for designing of culverts and drainage, but much of the work should be outsourced to a consultant that's familiar with obtaining Army Corps approvals, DEP approvals, dealing with the State Historic Preservation Office, coordinating with the railroad and the DOT. And so this screenshot, or this image is a clip from the previous grant application as an example of how the $300,000 request breaks out. This will be refined and massaged over the coming weeks as we prepare for the March 1st application. Once the greenway is in design or in permitting, and there's a clear path forward in terms of the approvals, the town will pursue construction funding. And there are several programs potentially available for funding something like this. Right now, the ballpark cost for this is $4 to $5 million. There's a great program called the Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, and they fund projects similar to this. We've had early conversations with the DOT, with the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, and we've got a great nod in the right direction that this type of project and this project could be supported. We've got to show more details on paper in terms of the approvals and the logistics, and that's what this grant money would be put towards in order to have the project designed and permitted. I'm going to wrap up here with just, I got 4, I think, or 5 slides with some photographs. And unless you're able to get down there and walk it, you might not know that some of these views and vistas exist. I've been on many of the greenways throughout the state. I've been involved in design of them, and I do believe that the opportunities here are unparalleled in many instances. You've got some great views and access to the Naugatuck River. You've got shots of the railroad. There are places where the rock ledge rises up to the highway like a cliff, and then you've got places where there are a grove of young birch trees. It's just a really beautiful walk for the 2.4 miles. There are a number of culverts and drainage that the town has been out to see. Some of these have been studied. Most of this carries drainage from Route 8 towards the river. In many instances, the culverts need to be extended so the trail can go over them, or erosion needs to be addressed. We're prepared to deal with those things. There are remnants of the old trolley from the early 1900s in the field. This is an old abutment where the trolley bridge used to go over the river. These are just concepts. Nothing's been designed. Could we celebrate the rich local history by dressing up this old trolley abutment with some history here as an education component of the greenway? The top left photo there on the next slide shows where the greenway comes close to Route 8. How do you make that inviting and maybe screen Route 8 from visibility? The bottom is a simple graphic to show how this could become an inviting space. Again, we see lots of opportunity. This shot here on the top left shows where the beaten path, generally the alignment of the existing water line, converges with the railroad. And though it's hard to see where the rail goes in the background, we propose a fence, landscaping, but we could make this an inviting space and keep separation to the railroad. We have met with the railroad and DOT in the field. All parties are committed to working with us. We've just got to work through the details. The trail has to be safe, it has to be inviting, it has to be successful. And I think lastly, on the top left, you'll see where the route of the trail is sandwiched between the highway embankment to the right, or the west, and the railroad and the river to the left or the east. And the graphic below shows how you bench how we could bench the topography and get a trail in there, again, with physical separation. So with that overview, you know, this slideshow will be uploaded, or has been uploaded to the town's website, and there will be, the public will be encouraged to submit suggestions, ideas on this, and those are things that we would take into consideration. But should we have the funding for design and planning and design and permitting, there would be plenty of opportunity and required opportunity, quite frankly, for public involvement during the design phase, and that's something that we would very much welcome.
Do any council members have any questions? Yes.
I'm wondering, is there any sort of time frame for completion? I notice on the one map, there's obviously different levels, and there's a fair amount that look like it's not ready for much construction yet. Do you have any estimated date?
Yeah, believe it or not, the design phase for something like this could be a 2-year time frame. It seems like a long time, and it is. There's a survey. It's great that the town got a head start on that, and a lot of that work's been done. Once you have a preliminary design, you have to engage the railroad, the DOT. There are permits and approvals from the Army Corps, the DEP, our local Inland Wetland Commission, in Thomaston, and all those things require a sequence, and it could be a 2-year timeline. Could it be done shorter, quicker? Potentially, but to manage expectations. And then construction of something like this would generally be a construction season. So once it goes to construction, that construction season is generally April to November. Could this be built in that time frame potentially? One construction season.
Anyone else?
Another.
Anyone from the public wish to comment or ask questions?
Marianne, can I ask another?
Yeah.
I have a question about the railroad, and is this these are the tracks that Metro North will be coming up to Waterbury from Bridgeport?
That's to the south of us. It's not the line from Bridgeport to Waterbury. We're north of that. So,
Right.
yeah.
But I guess I'm asking, this one particular picture, there's a train.
So this is the Naugatuck Railroad, and they have, I believe there may still be limited freight on this track, but we also have
Sightseeing.
a sightseeing train that goes down to Waterville, up to the Northfield Dam, and that's the large amount, that's the bulk of the traffic on this track at present.
Okay, so I guess my question is, nowhere does the Greenway come close to the Metro North track? Because I'm just thinking about safety.
Yeah.
There's a fence that, part of the design, you could see the wooden fence in multiple areas. At the gateway near the bus terminal, there is going to be a crossing from the parking area and the bathroom area that's already built in that facility.
Okay.
So they will have to come across the track, but it's going to be signalized and with the arms for the pedestrians for coming across.
We met with the DOT, the railroad, water company, the COG, number of town staff a year or so ago, and we walked that, and so there will be an accurate crossing signalized with devices, and then as you go up north, the railroad's always to your east or your right. There are places where the green would come close and would have physical separation, but there would be physical separation. There's about a 1,000-foot stretch that was built east of the bus maintenance facility. It's sort of a dead-end piece now. It's sort of a head start. There's a potential plan for that to continue north and loop, but it would go over the tracks or under the tracks. It wouldn't cross that grade. That's a potential future loop that hasn't been finalized.
Okay. Thank you.
Mary Ann, I just have a question.
Yes, Gary.
So our portion of the trail is like 2.4 miles, you said? Now, that, once it gets completed, is the town responsible for all the maintenance and all that?
Yes.
So the plowing of the virtual roads and all that? Okay.
So most of the greenways in the state are closed between dawn and dusk. Most don't receive winter maintenance.
Okay.
The town would decide at that time, I think, but well, during the planning stage, we would And a lot of folks use them for cross-country skiing or hiking in the winter months, you may know.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Back on the agenda, we need a motion for the minutes.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from January 17th, 2023.
Is there a second? We've got a motion and a second. Are there any corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining or opposed? The motion passes unanimously. I have nothing under the chairman's report. Town manager?
Madam Chairwoman, thank you. So just a few comments. The Wilson Street Bridge project did go out to bid. We did get our bids in, and the low bidder was Dayton Construction out of Watertown at approximately $1.9 million. So that will be, that project will be moving forward as we get our approvals from the state. Our audit, the auditors have requested an additional 30-day to complete the audit. That doesn't really reflect on the town. They will finish that up by the end of February. And just some comments on from me personally, from my position as town manager. Our job descriptions haven't been touched since the early 80s. And it's amazing to me the amount of comments that the job descriptions have been, or the scrutiny they've been under, when nobody's really looked at the job descriptions that have been in place since the 80s, which don't address any of the current language that is needed for us to protect ourselves. A lot of these changes were done in an effort to bring us and update it. When you look at it from a micro standpoint, I understand there could be some critiques if there's not an I here or a T there, or there's a discrepancy on what you interpret the language to be. But in the back scene, we're not only dealing with staff members that we have to change these job descriptions for, we have to negotiate with the union. We have to bargain the impact. We have to create the job descriptions. We have to make sure that they comply with all the issues that we deal with, as I have found since I became town manager, that if we have an employee, and I'm going to say this probably for the third time, who goes out and is injured, and there is no description on what their job is or what their physical ability that is needed to do the job, how do we bring the person back to do their job? We have to identify these levels. And just as an example, thinking about a dispatcher, we don't have hearing levels for dispatchers. And think about how important it is for a dispatcher to hear. So we have to figure out, because it's never been really looked into, because nobody's touched these job descriptions since the 80s. So we have to identify what is needed to allow our staff to know what is expected of them and what is needed to be done to bring them back. So are they perfect? They're probably not perfect. Are we moving in the right direction? We certainly are. And again, we're making improvements, and that's the goal, to move the town forward. When I was hired as town manager, I was asked to move the town forward, and I think I have effectively done that, and including the job descriptions, regardless of the pushback and the misunderstanding of the job description. It's amazing to me that nobody's pulled one of the old job descriptions and said, I can't believe we've been working under those job descriptions. We talk still about what's the mimeograph machine. It's still in the job descriptions. I don't even know if any of our staff members would know how to run a mimeograph machine, let alone be able to. So again, I understand. I want to move to perfection to get things correct, but the micromanaging on this stuff, it's just, I think it's a little overboard. We're moving in the right direction. The town collectively, through the leadership of the town council, we're moving the town forward. And I think that's what the goal is in the understanding that I have for your direction to me. So I hope that we could just continue to move forward. I appreciate the comments. I don't agree with all of them, but I'm the town manager. I'm making the changes. If people in the community want to take over the job and take a shot at, then they should go after the job. And I think that's all I have to say regarding the job descriptions.
Okay. Do we have any subcommittees that need to make a report this evening? No.
Is Kenny going to talk about it?
No. Under new business, we've talked about the Greenway. We need item B, appointments.
Sure. I move to reappoint Sharon Pratt, 1091 Buckingham Street, Unit C3, Watertown, as the new resident commissioner on the Watertown Housing Authority for a term expiring January 31st, 2028.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion passes unanimously.
I'm sure of this kid's name. I move to appoint Kareem Balika, 59 Pepperidge Tree Road, Watertown, as a member of Parks and Recreation Commission for a term expiring January 31st, 2024. This appointment is to fill an unexpired term of John Donahue, who has resigned.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? The motion passes unanimously. Item C.
I move to approve an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $41,900 to the maintenance, land and building line item for the Munson House roof replacement project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Yes.
I do. Mark, can you explain why we're going with the highest bidder and not going with like someone in the middle so we don't spend extra money?
So from what I understand, I'm not aware that the bid was awarded. Matter of fact, I'm a little shocked that that was said because I had a discussion with Donna Ford at 4:15 this afternoon that we're going to meet tomorrow morning to actually discuss the bids. So I don't know where it was stated that this bid was awarded. It was not. And the discrepancy in the funds is because we are unable to determine the viability of the the plywood that's on the roofing. One sheet of plywood to be replaced is $100. We don't know what needs to be replaced. We may find that this comes in around $20,000, but we needed to pick a point. And from what I understand, again, I was away on vacation last week, that they picked somewhere in the middle so that we could ask for the appropriation. If there's any funds left over, it would go back in the general fund as normal. So again, I'm not aware that this bid was awarded. If it was, that's news to me.
I have another. This is what I don't understand personally. If we hired, say, the person that came in with the 26, it's a Watertown Oakville business, and he came in at $26,900, and it's $100 for plywood. The company we're bidding on or appropriating tonight, his plywood's $120 a sheet. No, I'm sorry, wrong one. It's, yeah, $125 a sheet, and he's from Monroe. Isn't there any way we could keep our businesses in town on town projects?
Well, again, we haven't awarded this bid, so to discuss whether we're going to award it to a company that's from Monroe or Watertown, that decision hasn't been made. I agree, but to be honest with you, we've started recently talking about putting a policy in place so that we can have a discrepancy or a allotment of money that we can choose a local company. And actually, Jerry Lukowski and I spoke about this. He recommended we look at Bristol's policy where up to 8% we could deviate from the bidding process and actually award it to a local business if they were willing to match the low bid price. So we would be supporting our local businesses, and still the town would be looking out for our best interest by getting that lower price. But we don't have that policy in place. I think the general rule has been in the past, a discrepancy up to 2%, and they've awarded it to town businesses, but it's not written anywhere. So, you know, I don't feel comfortable just saying that's been our past practice because we don't really have a document stating that.
Let me clarify, if I might. We're just asking for approval of this amount of money to cover what the costs might end up being. But we have not awarded the contract to anyone to do the work. Is that correct?
That's what I understand, that's
Okay.
correct.
One more, and I should be
Just the
done.
total amount.
Right. I'm still not clear because I've been on other boards and commissions, and we open up the bids. We pick someone at that point, so everybody knows it's going to cost, say, $24,880. We don't come in with a higher number and hope there's money that's left. This is what I don't understand. If they're telling us the price of the plywood and the price of the job, why can't we award it to somebody and come in with the exact amount of money? Why do we have to go 41,000 and then spend 26, 21, or 24? I've never seen a bid not presented to the bidder and just ask for a sum of money first.
Because we don't know the scope of the work in the condition it's in now.
I understand that, and neither does the contractor. So if they come in with a bid, they can't change their bid because it's already a contract signed.
Right, but if we only approve $20,000 and they get up on the roof and the work is $40,000, what are they going to do? Wait 2 weeks till we meet again?
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, this is an emergency job on top of it. We have active leaking in this building. I was in there today showing it, and the roof the second floor ceiling has collapsed. This is really an emergency job. I did this to be transparent. That's why I asked to go out to bid while I was away on vacation. It is certainly going to be in the best interest of the town for us to choose the most reasonable, responsible bidder, and that's the intent of it. The whole idea was just get this in front of the council so we get an amount of money, and to avoid me saying this is an emergency and just appropriating the money. If you don't want me to bring this to the council, I just thought it was prudent to bring it here to make sure everybody's on the same page. This is a building that is important to our town, and we need to invest the money. And I again, will make another promise tonight that we'll ensure that we get the best price, and we were going to try and keep the work in town if we can, as long as that's a reasonable amount of money. So I agree with what you're looking for. We'll get it done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary Ann.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be, the whole roof is going to be replaced or repaired, not just it's not going to be the patch part, is it?
No, this will be
the whole new.
This is the whole roof. I was in
Okay.
touch with the Historic District to just ensure that we did not have to go in front of that commission for approval, and they assured me that as long as it's an asphalt replacement for an asphalt roof, are good. So this will be a complete roof, and we should be weather tight from the roof down.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed?
Anyone abstaining? The motion passes. Item C. D, I'm sorry.
Yep, I gotcha. I move to approve the job description for the position of Assistant Superintendent / Engineer for the Water and Sewer Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark, you wanted to add some comments
Yes.
here?
So again, I'm asking for a little discretion in this job description. We put this job description together working with our exiting superintendent of water and sewer, our new superintendent, our interim superintendent, and the Water and Sewer Authority. As I was away last week, I asked that this be filtered back into the Water and Sewer Authority, and they brought up some concerns that they'd like us to address. So what I'm asking for is you to approve this job description as it's written tonight. We will then bring it back to the Water and Sewer Authority to work through any of those discrepancies and come up with the best job description that is consistent with water and sewer. If we don't approve this, then this is going to hold us up for advertising for the job, and I'd like to get that process going. So my request is to approve this tonight. I will then go back to water and sewer. We will work through some of the issues that were brought up on a final review, and if there's any changes, I will bring it back to the council prior to us making a job offer to anybody, so that new staff member would have a clear idea of what that job description entails.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I have a question. Mark, I know you don't want to quibble on some of these things. I just did have a question about the 100 to 150 pounds manhole cover. I completely understand why that would be necessary. I'm just wondering if there's a person who's qualified for the job and, you know, maybe is petite or smaller person and just unable to do 100 to 150 pounds, would that disqualify them if they're not technically and legally disabled? Because I understand if they were like under the ADA and disabled, they would have certain protections, but what if they're just somebody who's, you know, qualified for all of the other reasons, but could not necessarily lift a manhole cover?
I went back and forth in my own head over this because I was concerned for that too, because really the job is we're looking for somebody with engineering capabilities and the
Right.
ability to actually run the department. I think that if we had to make a change, we could. I don't want to be sexist here in any way, but I don't know if a female could lift, most females probably can't move 150 pounds.
Right, that's why I asked.
My
the
mother
question.
weighs 93 pounds. I
Right.
know she can't, although she's
Right.
not an engineer. So I think we would have to look at that, but for all intents and purposes, that is a requirement of the job to be able to open up a manhole cover. I'm sure that they could ask a police officer or somebody else to help them if they needed to.
Okay,
But we have to start somewhere.
okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion passes unanimously. Item E.
I move to approve the proposed job description for the position of Administrator of Land Use and Building Services, Administrator Zoning Enforcement Official.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Madam Chairwoman, just so you know, there's been the only changes in this job description were wording. Everything is, the actual job description is almost exactly the same. We just updated the wording. And the only reason why we did that is because we needed to update the job description, the next job description you're going to approve or deny. So again, the job description, the pay, everything's the same. And the staff member who's in it is in agreement that this is more of an appropriate description of what he does.
Thank you.
Mary Ann.
Yes.
Now, on these, all these job descriptions, they all have regular business hours, like 8 to 5, or, I know one of them has like, you know, has to show up at meetings and stuff like that. But
So the department heads are regulated through our blue book or our green book. So that's stipulated in that document. And the union positions are stipulated in the union contract. So yes, there are stipulated hours. It's just in a different document.
Anyone else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve I move to approve the proposed job description for the position of Wetlands Enforcement Officer, Assistant Zoning Officer, Assistant Land Use Administrator. That is a long one.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on this one?
I have an observation.
Sure.
That Alan pointed out that the page 3 is missing, but I don't think it was missing in the packet that we received online. So just an observation that the paper packet, I think, is incorrect, but online it was correct.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $8,036 for tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I move to approve the resolution authorizing tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Recording stopped.